son. That's a good one. The royalty is probably so expensive I can't afford it. What's your name? Tony. I want to thank you for being here.
I'm Carol.
Carol. My wife's name is Carol.
We know
Are you Carol with an E? Yep. Carol without an E. And you are?
Nancy.
Nancy.
With a Y.
With a Y. My mother's name is Nancy with a Y. It's a pleasure. What's your name? Margaret. Thank you for being here. Very kind.
So you are the seniors representing getting you elected.
God bless you. Thank you. We all have the same color hair, too. Good to see you. How's everything? Thank you. Did you make that? It's beautiful. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. How are you? Right. Well, I better get started. Right. Is that right? Brendan? Where's Brendan? Hey, Senator. How you doing, buddy? Good. I can't even see what that says. Yeah, I'm ready to go. What's that thing? That's right. Can you see this okay? We'll show it to you later. Well, first, I want to thank you all for being here. You know, we announced the other day. Thanks for coming. We announced the other day how important it was to have fairness in our state, in our world, right? And this election is an important election because, for many reasons, but one of the things that are most important to me is being fair to people, all people, regardless of the color of their skin, their sexual persuasion, their age, their gender, no matter what. Everybody deserves fairness. And I announced the other day, and I'm announcing it here today again, that should we win this election, which I believe we are. When? When we win this election. On the first day after being sworn in, and I think you get sworn in around noon, last time I checked. Yeah. Where's my glasses? I get my glasses. On the podium.
Senior moment.
If I had them on, I'd been able to see it. Omar, you play with the lights up? No. It's very important, I think, and I'll tell you why. We came out with this plan to sign 5 executive orders to explain what we'll do on the very first day of fairness, a first day of fairness in the Crist administration. And the reason we did it was to let people know that elections matter. And who you vote for makes a difference. And we haven't had the kind of fairness Florida deserves in the last 4 years. And Floridians are hungry for it. I see it, I feel it every day. And it's not just Democrats, it's Republicans, it's independents, it's everybody. And so I want to lay out what we're going to do. First, I will sign the first executive order. This says inauguration. You can see that there at noon, right? The first executive order, EO, executive order, is bring back open, honest, and transparent government. This administration, the Rick Scott administration, hardly tells you anything about what they're doing. Makes it very, where's George Bennett? George, are you here? Makes it very hard for George and his colleagues in the media to even find out what's happening in your state government. When the governor flies around on his private plane, he doesn't write down who's on the plane with him, hardly tells you where he's going, who he's meeting with. It's all, they call it, it's a fancy word, they redact all that stuff, which means, you know, Governor Bush and I, and Governor Childs, and just about every governor would tell the press all of that stuff. Why? Because you have a right to know. You have a right to know. And so that's the first executive order I will sign after I take my hand off the Bible, getting sworn in on Inauguration Day, which will be in January. That's about 4 months away, maybe 5. The number 2, I want to make sure we raise the minimum wage. You know, it's a great thing. debate across our country, and certainly across our state as well, about raising the minimum wage to 10.10. Some have raised it even higher. But I will sign an executive order that will require the companies the state does business with, contractors, to make sure that they have a minimum wage of 10.10 for all of their employees, to set that example and make it known that this is important. The third one, I will sign an executive order that will require equal pay for women.
Yes.
Well, we just set it down. I can't read it. It's a little small. It's all right. The one on equal pay, I want to stay on this for a minute because it's very important to me. And I know it's important to you. And I know it's important to women. Make sure that we have equal pay for women. In Florida, women are paid 83 cents on the dollar compared to what a man gets. That's just wrong. There's no reason, no basis for that whatsoever. It's not only unfair, it makes it harder for families to get by. That's not right either. You know, Rick Scott talks about the fact that, you know, he's created some jobs. He hasn't created jobs. You have. Floridians have created jobs, you know? And we have to have jobs that pay a decent wage. You know, I go to Publix and I go to the Winn-Dixie and 7-Eleven and I talk to real people. I don't fly around on my private jet because I don't have one, like Rick. Really. And I get to see real people. We just saw some construction workers on the way over here. We stopped on I-95 and asked for their vote, and they all said they're going to vote for them. Nice people working in the hot sun. Real people. Real you don't have a voice right now. You don't. And so we're going to make sure that you do, that women get equal pay, and that whoever we do business with in the state, make sure that that's how they're treating women, fairly. We also want to ensure, the fourth one, ensure that Florida dollars go to Florida businesses. Isn't that kind of neat? And that sort of makes sense, common sense, instead of nonsense. You know, instead of having a bunch of foreign companies come into Florida and take a bunch of Florida jobs, which is the current administration is doing, we'll say that we need to do, wherever possible, whatever business the state is doing, whether it's building roads or airports or working on our ports or whatever it is, that we make sure we hire companies that are Florida companies whenever possible, and that those companies hire people that are Floridians. Imagine that. And one that's real important, especially to those who work here, in the LGBT community. Another executive order that I will sign will prevent discrimination against LGBT workers. There are currently no precise laws on the books in Florida that do so. That's just wrong. We have laws on the books that prevent discrimination in a lot of areas, and it's in our constitutions as well. It needs to be there for LGBT. So that's what they are. That's what the 5 are. And I am proud to be joined by some wonderful Floridians today. Senators, commissioners, former senators, future commissioners. Bert Aronson's an amazing man. I call him the Godfather. And he is a mensch and a dear friend of mine. And anytime I'm in Palm Beach County or near it, I try to get with Bert and seek his counsel. And he gives it all the time, whether I want it or not. But I always want it. I'm being funny. I love him like a father. And he's so good and been so good to Palm Beach County. They named a park after him, right? But I'd like Shelley Vanna, who is now a current commissioner. I think she wants to say a few words about what we've just talked about. And so, Shelley, you have the floor. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to do a little bit of the past so you can understand that the future's going to happen. And I want to talk about what a great governor Charlie Crist was when I was in the legislature. I was thinking about this today, Governor. I don't always think about you.
think about you every day.
That's why he's a great governor. When I was in the legislature and Charlie Crist was the governor, he called himself the people's governor. And I can tell you that from working with Charlie, he was and is the people's governor. He made his decisions about public education. He made his decisions about health care and women's rights and equal rights and economic benefits for the average person who really never gets a break. This man thought about it. And whether it was politically good for him or bad for him, he did what he thought was right. You don't find that very often. You're brave. You're a brave man. And I want to see that again. I want to see somebody who really cares about the issues, and he cares about the issues we talked about today. He has proven it. It's not some pie in the sky, oh gee, I'll do this if you help me. He's already proven to us that he'll do this. And he's already proven to us that he works across party lines to do what's good for regular Floridian citizens. So I have been a big fan of Charlie Crist because I know how government can be when it doesn't work. And I had the brief moment when I was in the House to see how government can work. And you made it work. And you made it work for us. I'm a teacher. The teachers love Charlie. Yes. They did. Healthcare is something that is near and dear to my heart. I want to make sure, as a legislator, I had to make sure that if people would come to me and they didn't have health insurance and they couldn't get Medicaid, they were working people who couldn't afford to get care. How sad is that? You know, Charlie cares about that. He's always worked to make things better for real people. So I'm here to say we need to get on the bandwagon, and we need to make sure that those 5 things that Governor Crist talks about will happen on day 1. And I want to be there and see it because I know you'll make it happen. I have no doubt. You've proven yourself to all of us that know you. And for all the people that are going to get to know you, I hope that our words mean something, because we can have sunshine in many ways in Florida if this man is elected governor.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I appreciate your kind words. And we have another commissioner here who's the head of the commission right now, Priscilla Taylor. And I was very proud of the way she originally got on the commission. I appointed her. And you know, when you're governor, you have the opportunity to make a lot of appointments to the judicial branch, to the legislative branch, and to county commissions. And it's a difficult authority to exercise because you hope you find good people to fill all those appointments. And we've done very well, I think, in our administration. And I'm particularly proud of Priscilla because she's been an extraordinary county commissioner. So much so that she now is leading the commission. And so I think you want to say a few words about what we're doing here and fundamental fairness for all people. So your county commissioner, my friend, Priscilla.
It's really hard to add to some of the things that's already been said, but as Charlie said, he did appoint me. He appointed me at a time when it wasn't really popular to appoint people like me, but he did. He went out of the box and he appointed me, and for that I am thankful. But I can say that Charlie's fairness is something that follows him, because when I was in the legislature along with Shelley, one thing, and I guess all of you who know me knows that I don't really let go of things once it gets in my mind. And so the restoration of civil rights was one issue that was in my mind, and I did not want to let it go. So I went to Charlie's office, and as a little, I think I was a freshman, and he assigned his attorneys to me at the time, me being a Democrat, as I was. And they came to my office and they said, Representative, the governor feels that this will probably not get through if you put it through the cabinet. As we know, it was was unbalanced with the House as far as the partisan politics. And he was absolutely correct. He said, but he's going to do something even better. And in my mind, I said, what can he do better? You know, they're not going to vote for it, you know. But he said he's going to do an executive order. And he did that. He did that for the people. And I always appreciate him doing that because he did not have to do it. And I know that every executive order that he has articulated today that he will do it. All we need to do to be there is to witness what he has said that he's going to do. We know minimum wage is something that we need. Women, we know that we need to fight because we have been underpaid for so long. For medical care, someone who will not expand Medicaid, and we have so many people who are not being treated. We know that Charlie is going to come there, and he's going to correct that. And as far as jobs coming into the state, I'm going to say that he is the jobs creator, because when I was in Tallahassee, he did, and I know he's going to continue to do it, and to hold people accountable that if you get money from the state, that you're not going to just get our money and leave. You're going to get our money and do what we ask you to do, and that is to hire our people here in Florida and expand that. It's really easy for me to stand here and talk about Charlie, because I was actually up there and I really was calling Charlie my friend. So it's easy for me to stand here today and say that I'm proud to be here with my friend, and I think he will do a heck of a job in Tallahassee for all of us.
I want to ask Dan Gelber to say a few words, but before I do, it's interesting, when we first announced these 5 executive orders, the first day of fairness, the Republicans reacted to it, the Republican Party, I should say. And they said that these things were, what was the word? Unacceptable. Now, the irony of that, I don't know who's against fairness, but I guess they are. Said it was unacceptable. Fairness is unacceptable. And it was by 5 white guys, members of the Florida legislature. They said these were unacceptable. That equal pay for women is unacceptable. That not discriminating against people is unacceptable. These things, openness and transparency in government, that's unacceptable. I knew they didn't support it, but I didn't think they would bite on it the way they did and say it's unacceptable. And the irony of having 5 white members, males, of the Florida legislature issue that message is astoundingly stupid. I don't know how else to say it. It's shocking, isn't it? I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. But that's where they are now. And that's why this election is so important. We're for fairness, and those 5 white guys in the Florida legislature that are Republicans are against it. Stunning, isn't it, when you think about it? It's hard to imagine. But that's where we are. So we have to win. We have to win. Now with that, my dear friend, former senator, and great lawyer, Dan Gelber.
I'll be very brief, but it is great to see Priscilla and Shelley. When you became governor, I was a Democratic leader, and I surround myself by women with good intentions. Let me say strong women with good intentions. And they really were important in our caucus. But we were surprised. We didn't know what to make of Charlie Crist, because he came in, felon restoration, energy policy, dealing with climate change, all these things. All of a sudden we said, who is this guy? And then we immediately realized, because I think our first day as governor, he walked into our caucus and said, I'd like to talk to you about your ideas. And we had an idea to make sure windstorm rates weren't going that high. He called a special session and kept our windstorm rates lower here in Florida, which is a pretty significant thing for
property insurance.
And property insurance, same thing. No, windstorm insurance too.
Yeah.
And I will tell you something. We call this the first day of fairness. When we spoke to him about it, we were going over, he was coming up with all the things he wanted to do the first day. We stopped him at 5. Because, and you know why we stopped him at 5? Because there's always Wednesday. and Thursday, and Friday. And my point is this. If you want to know what our state is going to look like when you put Charlie Crist back into the governor's mansion, look at these 5 and imagine that day every day. It's not the first day of fairness, it's every day of fairness. And that's what this state so sorely needs. And the only way we're going to do that is by eliminating this dark cloud that is over us right now in the Governor Rick Scott. So we've got to get this guy in there, and we are so excited about him. And if you want fairness in our state, fairness for women, fairness for the LGBT community, fairness for working people who just want to make enough to make ends meet, then this is exactly the guy that we need to get there. So thank you all for coming. Thank you.
We have a current senator with us too, Senator Clemens. And I think we're actually in your district, is that right? This is the city I was mayor. He was the mayor here too. Yeah, please come up and say
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. On behalf of the city of Lake Worth, thank you for being here. Commissioner Amoroso from Lake Worth is here.
Come in.
The reason I'm so excited that you're here in Lake Worth and that you're bringing this, these 5 things is because the people here in this audience are affected by that. Where are my union people in the audience? Make some noise, union. Chris said on his first day in office, he's going to do something to improve the fairness for you in the state of Florida, and that's a big thing. Where are the women in the audience today? First day in office, Governor Crist is going to do something to make sure we have equal pay in the state of Florida, and he's going to do it right away. Where's the GLBT community here? Thank you for being here. I was lucky enough to be mayor of this city when we made the deal with Compass to be able to come here and create this amazing community center that helps people in the GLBT community. And I will tell you that for a gubernatorial candidate and former governor to come out and say on his first day in office that he's going to do something to protect the GLBT community is the first time I've ever heard it in a gubernatorial campaign. And he's We're very proud that you're here, and I know everybody's excited to be able to get out and support you. I have been in the legislature for 4 years, and Rick Scott has never come into the Democratic caucus and asked what he should do to work with us. And I will tell you that there is no compromise in Tallahassee. It is a one-way Tea Party train to nowhere, and I need all of you to get out and work this fall so that we can elect Charlie Crist governor of the state of Florida. Thank you.
Let's go!
Look, this election is not only about the governor of the state of Florida. It's also about the Supreme Court of the state of Florida. Just imagine that if Rick Scott gets elected again, there will be 2 openings on the Supreme Court of the state of Florida, which war. It's conservative now, but stop and think of what could happen. With Charlie Crist as governor, we will get a fair shake in the Supreme Court of the state of Florida. Now, Charlie, look, I'm very proud to say I'm one of the first people that got behind this great guy. I don't call him governor. I call him my friend. And he's all our friends. Each and every one of you out there, he's your friend.
Amen.
And wouldn't you like to have a friend in the governor's mansion? I'd like to have a friend in the governor's mansion. Somebody that you could go to, somebody that you could talk to, somebody that will listen to you, somebody that will come to you. I think that we owe it to the other people in the state of Florida who are not here today to get up and not just be here today, but to work your butts off, to get out there, to get your friends, to talk to people, and to make sure that the next governor of the great state of Florida is Governor Charlie Crist, and that's what I want.
Well, you've heard a lot of speeches, and we have friends here in the media, and they may have a few questions about these executive orders we're talking about. So if you do, we'll be happy to take your questions. Okay, they're so used to thank you very much. go ahead.
Thank you so much. Governor, thank you so much for your stand-up with your executive orders. And being a lifelong passionate educator, I know that's going to be a hot topic during the coming debates that you have agreed on. And it's also going to be out there on media and the commercials that are being broadcast as we speak. You're so passionate about what we do with education, and you know that the Palm Beach County schools are bleeding for lack of funding. One of the executive orders I wish that you would consider would be to put an immediate moratorium on charter schools.
Oh, man.
Until we get to the bottom of how we can help our public schools be more successful and appropriate to educate all of our students. I think we need to put that line in the sand and say enough is enough, and let's get to business. And I'd appreciate that you would consider that.
I appreciate that very much.
I want to commend you on your choice for lieutenant governor.
Oh, that's a wonderful, wonderful lady. She is a working mom. She is an immigrant. She was born in Colombia. She is an amazing human being, truly, and will be a great lieutenant governor. I am confident. And we're blessed to have her on the ticket, and it's nice to have two of us, schlepping around Florida. And it's really gone well. It's great. It's great. She's absolutely a blessing. Thank you very much. She's very kind. Nice man.
Yes, I'm Pat Emmer with the AFL-CIO. You have my friend Dan Governor with you today. It reminds me of a story you told us when you came before our screening committee. And maybe you'd like to tell the story about early voting at Senator Gelber.
You know what? He tells it better than me. So yeah, why don't you address that? That's a great point.
Speaking of executive orders.
Yes.
It was pretty, look, you all remember in 2008, there was this fellow named Barack Obama running for president. And the lines were around the block, especially in South Florida and other areas. And it really was terrible. It was hot that election season. And people were literally fainting. In my district, in my news, people were fainting online. And our caucus was distraught about it. We knew that the bill that had been passed years earlier was a problem. And they had announced that they couldn't do anything about it because it had been a statute that was the legislature passed. So caucus said, why don't you call it? Charlie's been pretty good to us. And I said, well, they've announced they can't do anything about it. And everybody said, just call him. So I called him up. And it's actually a pretty terrible story because I called him up and I said, we have these concerns and we think that you could do an executive order, and even though it's against the statute, you ought to be able to do that. And he tried to put me on hold. And I learned he didn't really know the hold button works because I listened to him talk with his staff for a few minutes, not realizing I wasn't on hold. And then, and they were sort of arguing with him about doing it, and he was talking about it being an emergency. And then